Hi, everybody, and welcome to Attendance Bias. I am your host, Brian Weinstein. Today, we continue our 2025 miniseries where we preview each venue on Phish's late summer tour by visiting an old favorite, the Ameris Bank Amphitheater in Alpharetta, Georgia, colloquially and better known as Alpharetta. And when I say an old favorite, I mean for the band and the fans. Today's guest, Dave Defeo, has never missed a Phish show at Alpharetta, and he has lived in the area for over 2 decades, so he's well equipped to give us the skinny on the amphitheater and its surrounding area. What I love most about this episode is that since Phish has been playing Alpharetta for 15 years, there's not too much new information to give about it, although we do our best, but there is a treasure trove of Phish history at Alpharetta. I don't have the patience or the capacity to check this, but I think that there are more musical clips in today's episode than any previous Attendance Bias episode. More than that, Dave owns and operates a restaurant just outside Atlanta called My Parents' Basement. It sounds like a dream come true. Food, arcade games, pinball, comic books, all the stuff you wish you had in one place. But I'll let him describe it in just a few minutes. So let's get to it. Let's talk about pinball, Lakewood Amphitheater, and Rage Against the Machine with Dave Defeo to get ready for September 16th and 17th at the Ameris Bank Amphitheater in Alpharetta. Dave, welcome to Attendance Bias. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Brian.
My pleasure. I'm very excited to have you here to talk about what is now called the Ameris Bank Amphitheater in Alpharetta, where Phish is going to play September 16th and 17th. Before we get into anything, just so I don't sound like a true idiot, is it all right if I refer to the venue strictly as Alpharetta?
Yeah, I think that's what everybody calls it at this point because it's been 2 different things. And, I think it's best to call it the place that anyways, because that's what everybody talks about it like that.
Right. Similarly up here, no one calls it like Nikon at Jones Beach Theater. It's, I'm going to see Phish at Jones Beach.
Right.
So Phish is playing in September 2 nights at Alpharetta. And before we get into the venue or learn about you as a guest, as a Phish fan, I'm curious what you think. So Phish is very careful to avoid using the words summer tour or fall tour. This is toward the middle and end of September. Do you think this is a summer tour? Or when we look back in 2 years and we talk about the September run, is it part of the summer tour? What do you think?
I've gone back and forth on this. I think it's funny because the last night of Hampton is the last day of summer. So I guess technically it is a summer tour. This section of the tour that they're going to be doing in the later part of the summer seems to be the placeholder for Dick's this year, which I think is cool to change it up a little bit.
That's a good observation. I hadn't thought of that this is in place of Dick's, in a sense, in terms of scheduling.
Right.
So that's cool. Thanks for bringing that up. So, Dave, let me ask you, we're here to discuss Alpharetta and these 2 nights. What is your history in Alpharetta and your relationship to the city or that area?
Well, I've lived in Atlanta for 25 years, since 2000, and I've seen them every single time they've played it in Alpharetta. Great shows that have been since 2010. Starting out in 2010, those were some of the best shows I've ever seen. Gamehenge heavy, amazing from front to back. My first Destiny Unbound, my first Sleeping Monkey, it was just packed with firsts and gasps.
And geographically, I know this is something I could look up. Alpharetta is pretty much saying they're playing Atlanta. Am I right when I say that, or is it a little more nuanced?
It's about 30-40 minutes outside of Atlanta. So it's really, it can fall under the Atlanta umbrella. I mean, we either call it Atlanta or Alpharetta, depending on who we're talking about. And it can go either way.
So in your opinion, what makes Alpharetta unique as a place to see Phish?
I think it's such a great venue. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Lakewood Amphitheater.
I'm not. And one of the questions I wrote down, we can get to it right now, is kind of what's the big difference between them?
Well, Lakewood is about 8,000 larger. It's a bigger venue, but it's older, so it's definitely not as up to date. The big thing about Lakewood is getting in is really, really tough because it's just a circle around it of traffic. So once you hit that traffic, you're in that circle until you get there for probably 45 minutes or so, and it's dreadful. So when they moved to Alpharetta, I was super stoked about it. That's It's super easy to get in there. It's clean. It's a little bit smaller, so it feels a little bit more intimate, which I like. It's just a great vibe over there.
So for any fans who are coming to these shows, let's say they've never been to Alpharetta, but if they land in Atlanta and they have an extra day on one end, whether it's before the shows or after the shows, what are some recommendations you would offer for things they should do, places they should go to eat? Any recommendations you have?
I would recommend kind of getting outside of Alpharetta because that's really suburban and it's a lot more chain restaurants and kind of cookie cutter stuff. But outside towards Atlanta, there's great barbecue restaurants. I actually own a restaurant to the eastern side of Atlanta in Avondale Estates called My Parents' Basement. We've got almost 20 pinball machines, tons of arcade games, a full comic book store, full restaurant, full bar. We've kind of got something for everybody. Super family friendly. Obviously, I'm biased, but that would be a recommendation of mine if you like pinball and playing games. And we got great food for vegans. So a lot of stuff over there.
Do you have
Uh,
social media? Like, can people follow My Parents' Basement?
yeah, definitely. We're on in Instagram. I think we're on Facebook too, but it's not as regularly monitored. But Instagram would definitely be the place to check us out.
What's your favorite pinball machine that you guys have in the restaurant?
Attack from Mars.
That didn't take any thought at all.
It's a no brainer. It's such a great machine.
When I was growing up, when Tommy, the Broadway musical, from the Who album, went onto Broadway, it was like a no-brainer. I think it was Bally's produced a Tommy pinball machine.
I've played it.
Right? It seems like the ultimate product media match. It's like, a pinball machine for Tommy.
Yeah,
It's incredible. Do you have the Star Wars one where you have to shoot the TIE fighter?
we do. Yeah,
Oh man, I'm coming down there.
yeah,
For even if I can't see Phish, I'm just coming to go to your place.
yeah. Well, hopefully they get us on a regular rotation. We've kind of been on an every other year or so kind of spot, but they play great down here, and I would love to see them come here every year.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later. I tried to put together a kind of like a band history of each venue. And when I looked up Alpharetta, I've been hearing about it for years, but I didn't realize how regularly they played it. It's like clockwork every other year.
Yeah.
So you said that the area, specifically around the amphitheater, is kind of like big box chain, suburban, like nothing truly normal. I mean, I'm sorry, nothing truly exceptional.
Right.
Would I be right to suggest or imagine that there's probably like a Hampton Inn or a DoubleTree and a Marriott or a Garden Inn, Hilton Garden Inn, stuff like that?
I think all of those things actually.
Right, right.
Yeah. Pretty standard suburban spot.
So you mentioned barbecue earlier. What are some restaurants other than your own? Let's say people can't make it to the east part of Atlanta. What's some other restaurants or regional food, even if you can't name check a place? What's
Yeah.
something that if it were my first time, because I've only been to the very northeastern tip of Georgia, I think that was, or northwestern tip. I was on my way to Bonnaroo from New York.
Oh, right
So
on.
I just cut through, but I've never truly been to Georgia on a vacation or for recreation. What should I definitely do, eat, or see before I leave other than my parents' basement?
I would definitely hit a barbecue place, and get yourself some like a good pulled pork sandwich or some brisket. What makes a barbecue place down here for us in the South is good brisket, good mac and cheese, good ribs. Those are the three tells. If they can do those things right, that's all right.
Ribs and brisket are my favorite. So you've sold me. I'm in
Yeah,
already.
they're the hardest things to do perfectly, but if a place can nail them, that's it.
So looking into the venue history of Alpharetta, the Ameris Amphitheater, as it's currently called, it opened in 2008, so relatively new. when we talk about amphitheaters or just any entertainment venue in general. It was known as the Verizon Wireless Amphitheater or just the Verizon Amphitheater for most of its history, all the way up until 2019. Just a couple of years ago, it switched to Ameris, which is a bank, I think, right?
Yeah.
Its capacity, you mentioned Lakewood, is quite large. Alpharetta is 12,000. Is it hard to get tickets?
It can be. Over the years since they play such great shows there, it's been getting to be a harder and harder ticket.
And you and I were talking just a little bit before we hit record, saying that you've lived in the area for, what did you say, 20 or 25 years?
25 years. I moved here a month after Big Cypress.
So would you say that there is any sort of jam band scene or any sort of interest? You know what? A better question. What kind of music scene is there? Even if it's not Alpharetta specifically, maybe in the Atlanta area or the Atlanta suburban area.
Yeah, there's a lot of different music scenes because there's a really strong hip hop presence in Atlanta. There's a really great bluegrass presence in Atlanta. There actually is a pretty solid jam band scene here in Atlanta. We get a lot of good shows. I've seen String Cheese and J-Rad this year. Just great stuff.
Hey, I'm Sam.
And I'm Max.
We're the hosts of 78 Amped, a music podcast stacked with all the news, reviews, and interviews that will help you find the next great song to add to your playlist.
3 times a week, each week, we dive deep on the latest and the greatest from artists in Australia and around the world, chat with the people who made them, and invite you to a secret club for music lovers, all with a pretty healthy dose of smack talk along the way.
Smack talk?
Yeah, thought it'd be a bit nice.
So tune in Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays on your favourite podcast platform to 78 Amped and hear a different take on music.
I reckon we nailed that first time. Don't need another take.
I think.
What venues, if people get there a day or two early and there's a night zero, what are some places, whether it's a small bar or maybe a medium-sized theater, that might host live music before Phish gets started or even an after show?
No, that's a good question. If there's something playing that you should check out, there's a newer venue called the Eastern, and it's fantastic. It's a smaller venue. I would say like Trey Band would probably play there if they came through here. They haven't yet, which I'm kind of bummed about, but hopefully in the next couple of years we'll get some good Trey Band shows there. But it's very new. So I would say check that place out. There's just venues all over Atlanta, and some of them specialize in certain types of music.
Well, I'll cross my fingers for you for a Trey Band show in the near future. But getting back to Alpharetta, so we mentioned it's a capacity of about 12,000. Judging by the pictures, just a Google image search, it looks like a particularly open and airy venue. Maybe it's because the angle, it was like a drone picture, like very high up and pointed downward. But compared to the sheds that I'm used to in the Northeast that get very stuffy, that I guess the lack of walls, the sides, the roofs are very high. I'm sorry, they're not so high up. So it seems like there's less air, less chance of a breeze. But it looks like the shed, the pavilion top, is quite high up in Alpharetta. And it also, from the picture that I saw, looks like the lawn and the pavilion are almost the same size. Am I wrong on that?
No, I would say that's pretty accurate. I think the roof is pretty high up because I've been to some rain shows where I was under the pavilion and still was getting wet. The lawn is great there because there's a portion page side that is almost levels out, so you don't feel like you're standing on a hill, and it's really great. That's a really great family area. I actually brought my kids 2 summers ago, and they were 6 and 4 months old. And we had a great spot carved out, plenty of room to put a quilt down and carve out a nice spot to settle in for the show.
That sounds lovely for such a small, relatively speaking, small venue for a band like Phish. The way you're describing it, it almost reminds me of the Ascend Amphitheater in Nashville. Have you been there?
I have. I love that place.
Yeah, because I remember when I was there, it was the first year it was open, I think 2015, and I walked to the back to use the restroom, and I remember all the way in the back, I thought, this is like only a third of the way back in Camden, for example. Like I would still be in the seats.
Yeah, Camden's definitely much bigger. That is the place I was born. I was born in Camden, New Jersey.
Well, I'm glad you made it somewhere else.
Yeah, me too.
Do you have any tips or tricks for people who are going to Alpharetta for the first time? Hidden gems. You should enter in this entrance or avoid this place to eat. Anything you would say to a first timer?
The shakedown is in Lot A. If you can get a Lot A parking pass, that's the place to be.
Looking over Phish's history in Alpharetta, they have a very long history at this venue. They started playing in 2010, and as of now, this is before the September shows, they've played it 17 times. You mentioned to me before we hit record that you've seen them every single time, right?
Yep.
Wow. The first time Phish played there was on July 3rd and 4th, 2010, with the July 4th show, which I wrote down just by looking at the set list. I remember listening to this when it happened, like YouTube was just on its way up. But I remember it was very Gamehenge heavy. And then there was a shocking, I can't think of any other word to describe it, Harpua into Killing in the Name by Rage Against the Machine. And when I saw it on Phish.net, just listed on the screen, I thought, oh, this must be like a Fishman goof song. But I remember seeing it. I was in my parents' house with a laptop and I pulled up YouTube, which I don't know if I had used before, and I had to download it. I couldn't stream it. They didn't have the internet capability for it yet. And I'm like, oh my God, this sounds really good. This sounds real.
Yeah.
What was it like being there?
I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. I was on the floor when that happened, and it was total insanity. Everybody went crazy. And yeah, you said it right. They just completely nailed it in every way. I mean, to get a Harpua at that point in that run, that was the second night, second set, and we had already gotten a Colonel Forbin and a Tila and a Punch You in the Eye and a Camel Walk in the first set. It was just mayhem. It was awesome.
And the tone of your voice, just seeing your face, the way like you're lighting up as you remember it. I didn't know anyone personally who was so into going to Alpharetta or who lived nearby. And when I put a call out on social media for people to come, for people to come guest on this episode to tell me about, to inform me and the listeners about Alpharetta, I got like 10 responses within 2 hours. What do you think it is about this venue that draws such passion from the people who have seen Phish there?
Well, I think Atlanta is definitely a hub in the South. And so, being kind of an anchor point in the South, that gives, we're also have the largest airport in the world. So it's super easy to get here. I think it's an easy travel, and they always play really good shows. They just always play great shows in Alpharetta, so it's become a destination for Phish fans.
Someone mentioned specifically that from being on the lawn, the columns that hold up the roof of the pavilion are noticeably thinner than the columns from other sheds.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because there's nothing worse, right, if you're on the lawn than having your whole view blocked, let's say at SPAC or something, you know?
Yeah, you miss Page the entire show, or
Right.
can't see Fishman, or yeah.
So in 2010, Phish broke the internet before that phrase was even invented by playing Harpua, Killing in the Name, as well as all the other Gamehenge heavy and kind of rarity oldie songs that you mentioned. And then they played 2 shows in 2011, right? 2 years in a row. They were not on that every other year rotation yet, June 14th and 15th. What I read up about this is the second night was interrupted by a thunderstorm, but the show was finished. It was not canceled. Do you remember that? Anything about that?
Oh yeah. I was actually under the pavilion, and it was raining sideways. There was no escaping the rain at that point. They were playing Mound, and in the middle of Mound, Trey said, "We've got to come out and put the rain gear on. There's a storm coming."
We've just been told that we have to pause momentarily. There's a storm coming, and you guys can enjoy the storm for a second, if I will, and then we will be right back. That's what they just told me, and there's nothing I can do about it. We will finish Mound after the storm clears. Storm. That song, but not tonight, because we don't know what to do. And that's the honest truth. One of these days.
And we could really not hear all the way what he was saying at that point because the rain was so loud. But people started leaving. People were leaving, and I did not go anywhere. I wasn't going anywhere. So we hunkered down. We waited for the storm to pass, and they came out and started right where they left off in Mound.
Really? That's fun.
Hey, it was amazing. So they started the second set with the second half of Mound and just played a killer set. I think there was a Kung in there, and it was awesome.
So they skipped 2012 after that, and this is kind of the onset of this every other year rotation. They came back in 2013 for July 16th and 17th, and then from then on, Alpharetta seemed to be an every other year stop. Do you remember anything about the 2013 tour, or the run, I should say?
Yeah, it was a great run. That was actually the first time I brought my wife to a Phish show. We had a great time. There was a Heartbreaker, Led Zeppelin Heartbreaker cover in the first night, and that kind of wove through the whole night, that show. It was really, really cool. second night, it was a dinner and a movie opener, I believe. And what a great show. I think that was the first time they played Frost as a Trey cover, which was super cool. Yeah, that was a great run.
So I have two questions for you about what you just said. First, how did your wife like it?
She's not super into Phish, but she had a great time. Yeah, and she likes me, so she likes seeing me in my happy place, and it's cool to get to share that with her. She's been to probably around close to 10 shows with me.
It's funny how we lose sight as Phish fans, how we lose sight of how most people go to concerts. Like if I told you, or if someone at work told me that they've seen a certain artist 10 times, that would be extremely impressive.
Yeah.
You know, I live in New York, so it's, oh, I've seen Billy Joel 10 times. People might go like, oh, wow. But to us, it's like 10, oh, all right. She must not like him that much.
I'm doing 8 shows this summer. So.
Right, me too. And the other question I had for you, you mentioned this Heartbreaker theme, the Led Zeppelin theme that kind of wove through the show. There's fans of all different types and all different stripes. Are you the type of person who likes different setlist games and motifs and running jokes, or do you just want to have big jams and unique stuff? I mean, the answer could be both. I'm just curious as to what makes you happy at a show in terms of setlist construction and playing.
I really like when they're playful because it makes it feel like a back and forth between the fans and the band. So I really like that. I like diversity of set list. It doesn't have to be stuff I've never heard before. I just like them branching out and keeping it fresh.
Me too. I'm that way too, but I am a sucker for set list games and repeats and reprises. You know, I got into the band when I mean, it was in 96, but I was listening to tapes from like 1993, 94, 95 when they were doing a ton of that stuff.
Yeah, same. My first show was summer 96.
Fast forwarding a bit, though, they played in Alpharetta. They came back the next year after 2013 on the anniversary of It on August 3rd, 2014, which had a big breakout of Sense and Subtle Sounds, as well as tons of teases and quotes. I looked at the Phish.net, the set list, the little notes, the footnotes at the bottom of this set list, they go for like 2 paragraphs.
Yeah.
Like there was a special version of Harry Hood where Trey traded or did duets. I was going to say traded solos, but it seems more like he played along with each other band member. Yeah. Like almost like a babysitter, like he was giving time to each other guy. And then jammed versions of Gumbo and a Chalk Dust Torture that seems to defy explanation. Do you remember anything about this show?
Yeah, that was a great Chalk Dust. Another noteworthy thing about that Harry Hood is that summer, Fishman, I think, removed the woodblock from his kit. And so the intro to Harry Hood is a hi-hat. It's like, and it caught me so off guard. It was such a cool thing. Same thing with Yem. You didn't get that wood block hit right as you're going into the pretty part. It was a snare hit. So it was cool. It's just cool that they don't ever settle on anything. They're constantly making things fresh and for themselves and for us. And that's why we go back, I think.
Dave, I got to tell you, man, I've loved talking to you the whole time so far, but when you mentioned that you remembered something like this, which is at this point, almost 11 years ago, that instead of one woodblock tap, it was a snare drum hit, you are speaking my language.
Yeah.
You're the type of fan that I really love talking to because you notice the little things that make them different from every other version you've heard before. And that's the stuff that brings me joy.
Yeah, same. Oh, I like time traveling too. So I like re-listening to shows because it puts me right back in it. And I feel like that's my version of time travel. I can close my eyes and I'm right back there on the lawn and with my feet in the grass. And it's just a beautiful thing.
I love it. This whole podcast is my version of time travel, except I'm usually the passenger.
Yeah.
Other people get to take me with them like you're doing right now. But they came back in 2016. Now they're on the fall tour. They played October 21st and 22nd. Let me ask you, because I get a little uncomfortable sometimes in the Northeast in the summer because it gets so humid. How is it different seeing Phish in Alpharetta or in Georgia in general in October compared to, say, July or August?
Well, you say you've never been to Georgia.
That's true.
The humidity is palpable, to say the very least. So to have it be in October, it was a totally different vibe. It was dark when the band came out for the first set, which was totally different. It was cool and breezy. It was just such a great time to be in the South playing outside.
It's fun you say that because when I looked up on Phish.net and I clicked on the date of this show and read some of the reviews, almost every single person used the word vibe in the first sentence or two. Like lots of discussion of the vibe of this show. And specifically, though, once you get past that, people pointed out Down with Disease I think it's the first night, and Back on the Train as well. And then from night 2, Mike's song Into Ass Handed into Weekapaw Groove, which I love just reading without even listening to it.
That Down with Disease is one of my favorite Down with Diseases I've ever heard. That whole second set is one that I revisit a lot because it was so good. The Winter Queen was really good in the second set. It was just phenomenal. Great set.
Then we skip 2 years and we're back to the summer. So now we're in a 3-night stand in August. So even though it's 12,000, does it sell out a 3-night run?
I think those were all sold out, yeah.
So there was an extra spacey Ghost on night 1 that a lot of people who wrote reviews gave a lot of attention. And then a jam-heavy 6-song second set on night 2. And my favorite thing that I saw was night 3 had a You Sexy Thing reprise.
Yeah, so they opened the show with You Sexy Thing the third night. And that came back throughout the whole set. Trey teased it multiple times throughout the whole show. And they came back for it. Actually, the encore, I think it was the encore that they played Fee and just totally botched it. Trey forgot a bunch of words. And I wouldn't say totally botched it.
Right, but he even said, like, well, we're going to play one we know the lyrics for afterward.
And it's so funny. He said, sing along. I know you know the words too. And they busted into 2001. And it was, that 2001 is one of the best I've ever heard too, because it had elements of Tweezer reprise, it had elements of You Sexy Thing, and it really was very playful, which is one of the things I love best about the band.
So next, unfortunately, we had a 3-year break because 2020, other than Mexico, didn't happen.
Yeah.
Right. Let's remember, like, there was no tour, summer, fall, anything in 2020. So they came back in the summer of 2021 after 2018, July 31st and August 1st. So the tweezer from the second night, August 1st, was discussed on this podcast with my friends Nate and Hannah. So anyone here who's interested, you should go back and check out that episode. Otherwise, the Phish.net Jam Charts describes Tweezer as, quote, among the most magnificent versions in Phish history. This one's improvisation traverses a host of gloriously bedazzling galaxies that are at times as mind-expandingly thrilling as they are soulful and divine.
Wow.
They are very floral with their writing over on the Phish.net Jam Charts.
Yeah.
Dave, what's your version? What's your explanation or description of that tweezer, if you can recall it?
I remember that tweezer being pretty phenomenal. I mean, that was an awesome set. They opened with Buried Alive, which is the first time they played Buried Alive in Alpharetta. And so that right off the bat got people pretty hyped.
Right. And then it blended into this great twist and then Piper, which is a classic pairing.
Oh, yeah. I love Piper. Yeah, it was just very pretty jams throughout that second set. It was very, very cool. And actually, the thing that people probably don't talk about during that show is around 2018, they started changing the way they played Farmhouse. And that was the first time I'd heard Farmhouse since then. And it, to me, got much prettier and just like a warm blanket. I just love the way they've been playing Farmhouse since then. I say recently, but it was like 2018 when they started changing it, and that was a long time ago now.
Hey, we're time traveling all over the place. Time's a flat circle. Sometimes we don't remember.
Right. Yeah. Sleeping Monkey Encore for that show was great. Anytime you can end on a Tweezer reprise is pretty good way to end.
Yeah, everyone's gonna walk out smiling.
Yeah.
And finally, but most recently, before these shows coming up in a couple of days, July 14th, 15th, and 16th, 2023, they played a 5-song second set on night 1, and oddly, only 6 songs on each set in night 2. So were these 2023 shows heavy on jamming, or was it just longer versions of each song without jams? Do you get what I'm asking?
Yeah, they were definitely heavy on jams. There was a Ruby Waves in there. I think it was the first night, and it was fantastic. It was a very high energy jam, and it never really gave you a chance to breathe because it was just like nonstop dancing the whole time because there was such a good groove that they had found. Really, they were playing at the height of their game on that 2023 tour. I feel like it was an exceptional tour.
able to say that with almost every tour, including then and since then.
I know I say that all the time. We're really lucky. I found Phish in high school, and most people that found their band in high school at this point in their lives, I'm 47, they are going to see them as a nostalgia act, and Phish is anything but that.
So Dave, thank you so much for giving us the background, the history, the tips, the tricks, everything about Alpharetta, anything that anyone who is traveling there for the first time or maybe returning from one of the many times that Phish has played there before, information they can use. Before we get out of here, tell us again about your restaurant, where it is, how people can find it, and what they'll find when they get there.
Yeah, it's called My Parents' Basement. We're in Avondale Estates, Georgia, which is just east of Atlanta, probably 5-minute drive out of Atlanta. It's video games, pinball, comic books, beer, food, a lot of vegan food, a lot of great stuff. Yeah, come check us out on Instagram, My Parents' Basement. The first night of Alpharetta coming up will be my 75th show. I'm going to be there with my 14-year-old and my 17-year-old nephew. The second night, I'll be there with my 2-year-old and my 8-year-old and my wife. I'm looking forward to a blast.
Beautiful. It's a family affair this year at Alpharetta. Dave, thank you again so much for taking the time and giving up all this information.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, Brian. It was nice talking to you.
And that's it for today's conversation with Dave Defeo about Alpharetta. I'd like to thank Dave for joining me today, Phish.in for the many recordings used in today's episode, the Mockingbird Foundation for everything they do to support music education for children, and Phish.net for pretty much everything else. If you enjoy Attendance Bias, please support the show by visiting www.buymeacoffee.com/attendancebias. You could donate anything you can to help support the show. You can rate and review the podcast anywhere you listen to your podcasts, and you can follow Attendance Bias on social media. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time on Attendance Bias.